bring in former U.S. Attorney Joe diGenova now. Joe, good morning. What did you think?
Well, I would say that it was fundamentally unwatchable. I mean, if you're a former United States attorney and an independent counsel like I am, and you still have your faculties, watching someone who doesn't have his faculties anymore is pretty embarrassing and kind of makes your skin crawl. Just think about this for a minute. You watched Bob Mueller yesterday be basically an incompetent witness in the truest sense of that word. And therefore, that means that for 2.5 years or more, that person has been responsible for the fate of the President of the United States and the running and how this country was run under this cloud. That was a disgrace for the Department of Justice. Rod Rosenstein should hang his head in shame. And I want everybody that's listening to never forget this. Rod Rosenstein is responsible for what you saw yesterday. The then Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, decided that he could not take the heat of conducting an internal justice, run by the Justice Department, investigation into the 2016 nonsensical allegations. That could have been handled and disposed of in about 6 months. Instead, he got out of the way, he was afraid, and of course McCabe threatened him, and we ended up with Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller was not a legitimate special counsel. He had an agenda. He lied yesterday, by the way, so many times, it's hard for me to start. Most interesting, he was asked if he had any conflicts. He said no. That is a lie. Bob Mueller had to get waivers from the Justice Department to be appointed special counsel. What is he talking about? He didn't have any conflicts. There were waivers that were known to be given to him. Is it because he was a business partner of James Comey, as he testified to yesterday? And this nonsense that he and Comey are not friends, they're only business partners, is a lie. That was a disgrace. Now, it's not going to stop the Democrats. They're going to continue because Nadler is crazed. They're going to file lawsuits, enforce subpoenas civilly, do phony criminal contempt citations. But yesterday, Bob Mueller showed that he didn't run that investigation. Andrew Weissman did. Andrew Weissman hired all the people. He drafted the complaints against people. He drafted the criminal charges. He drafted that report, which is incomprehensible in its internal inconsistencies, its omissions, its lies about people. His answers yesterday about why he lied about Carter Page in that report, why he lied about Joseph Mifsud in that report, and Papadopoulos. His answers were unacceptable for someone of his status and experience. That was a professional embarrassment for the Department of Justice.
So Robert Mueller, clearly I agree with you, Joe, that when I finished watching that, my impression was he was not in charge of this. He didn't do any of the hiring for this. He was a figurehead because he's a quote-unquote Republican, and he provided the cover for Andrew Weissman to conduct the report, to conduct the quote-unquote investigation, and to publish that report. Will we get any of the answers that we didn't get yesterday, that he said, I'm just not answering that question, that's outside my purview? Will we get those answers?
Which is well underway. Let me reassure people that Mr. Durham is doing a super job. Horowitz is doing whatever he's doing on this internal stuff. And people are returning to talk to Horowitz as a result of Durham being appointed. Witnesses who spoke with Horowitz are being asked to be re-interviewed because they lied the first time, and they covered up for people. And now they're being asked to re-interviewed so they can come in and save their fannies. Because when all is said and done, whatever Horowitz's findings are going to be turned over, sorry about that, are going to be turned over to Durham and the Attorney General. And Barr is personally involved in the supervision of this case. This has not been palmed off, on some lackey. So I can assure you, and the sense of what's going on, excuse me, is that Durham is pursuing a massive, I would guess, from what I can tell, from what's being done, that Brennan is at the head of a conspiracy case, and that the original origins of this case, going back to Brennan going to Europe and enlisting the aid of the UK and other countries, is going to be what's being looked at, because it's pretty clear that intelligence community assessment that was made at the end of the Obama administration was a world's worst tickle.
Well, let me ask you, Joe, about your impression of Mueller. You mentioned that he lied multiple times yesterday, but there were moments where a lie wouldn't make any sense. That he just straight up seemed befuddled because. There were elements that were in his report. For instance, the name Fusion GPS appears in the report that has his name on it, and he didn't seem to know what Fusion GPS was. Additionally, he was asked by Jim Jordan who told Papadopoulos that there was dirt on Hillary Clinton that the Russians had. The answer to that, also in his report, very consequential, Joseph Mifsud. Yet he said that he couldn't answer that, and Jim Jordan pointed out, it's in your report, it's Joseph Mifsud. Was this just that he was confused, or was he lying in all of those cases?
I believe it was a combination. I believe he was confused in some instances and clearly befuddled and unaware. He forgot things that he should not have forgotten. But let me just say this. If you write a report like that, which I've done, I wrote an independent counsel report under the statute. You don't forget what's in it. It's imbued in your mind for the rest of your life. I can tell you things that are in my report from the 1990s that I can't believe that I can remember. Mueller didn't write the report. He didn't conduct the investigation. If you are a hands-on prosecutor, you don't forget stuff. Now, in his case, it may very well be that his reaction yesterday was also a combination of bad memory, of the beginnings of dementia. Watching him physically at his news conference when he first announced that he wasn't ever going to testify if he were called. You watched him. He had trouble walking up the stairs to the podium. He gave halting statements. Yesterday was a reaffirmation of the fact that there's something wrong with Bob, something seriously physically and perhaps motor and perhaps mental. That was an unbelievably bad performance, I think. Some of it was lying, purposefully evasive about his relationship with James Comey. That's not dementia. That's just lying. The rest of it, who knows?
All right, well,
Fusion GPS, that's laughable.
All right, we'll take a pause for a second here. Speaking of health issues, we'll let you clear up whatever you've got going on this morning, and we'll take a traffic break. We're talking to former U.S. Attorney Joe diGenova, helping us analyze yesterday's Mueller hearings. Joe, was there anything in all of this that surprised you, any new facts that came out of it, as Republicans especially questioned Mueller, that you were stunned by?
No, no, I was not, and I must say, I thought the Republicans did a particularly good job. They were organized. They had people were given assignments. Ratcliffe, particularly a superb lawyer. Victoria and I were at Fox last night, and we had a chance to talk to John. And he's a great former U.S. attorney. Did a superb job, as did Jim Jordan. Louis Gohmert asked a couple of questions. I wish he'd follow up a little bit more with particularity, but he opened up some good stuff. But actually, everything that came out yesterday is already known or suspected by people, who've analyzed this thing back to it fairly well. But it all gets back to one thing. Andrew Weissman was put in charge of this case by Bob Mueller because he was there to make sure that they never got anywhere near the Clinton people or Loretta Lynch or the origins of this conspiracy. That was his job. He was the Maginot Line for the Democrats against getting to the origins of this. Every time Bob Mueller said that was not in my purview, the origins of this, that's being investigated by somebody else, that was the Weissman special. He was there to prevent Bob Mueller from investigating anything about how this all got started, this fake counterintelligence investigation, which was created out of whole cloth by McCabe and Comey.
Why?
And Brennan.
But why would Bob Mueller agree to that? Why would Bob Mueller agree to be the head of this, the face of this, and then cede power to someone who has an agenda? And Bob Mueller knows that.
Because he hated Trump. He was part of the Never-Trumpers. He was the Bushie who hated Trump, just like Rod Rosenstein. When he and Rosenstein went to the Oval Office to visit the president in May of 2017, that happened for a reason. It was not to discuss what types of qualities the new FBI director should have. It was nonsense. That was designed to take the measure of the president. before Bob Mueller accepted the appointment as special counsel. Rosenstein knew about that. He had discussed it with McCabe. He knew he was going to appoint Mueller. Rosenstein was a weak, and Rosenstein will go down in history as a combination of Rasputin and a number of other ugly figures in history. What a despicable human being. Remember, we are here today because Rod Rosenstein couldn't figure out, after 30 years of being a prosecutor, how you conduct an investigation into something like this. He didn't want to touch this in any conceivable way. He wanted out of it.
Right, and the outcome of this investigation was the same thing that he condemned in James Comey, which was to indict a public figure in the court of public opinion without actually charging them, and that's what happened here yet again.
Of course, that's what the report was all about. And by the way, this nonsense that Mueller said yesterday, we didn't pursue a subpoena of the president and therefore didn't get a chance to interview him because there wasn't enough time. That's nonsense. He didn't pursue a subpoena of the president because he was going to lose any case in which he sought to subpoena the president when there was no evidence that a crime had been committed. And under U.S. v. Nixon, if there's no crime, if there's no criminal case, to get testimony from a president of the United States, of course he was going to lose. Of course he was going to lose. And so when they didn't get their interview, you got the vindictive report. And the interview, this whole investigation all along was designed for one reason, to get Trump into an interview so that they could accuse him in any report that followed of perjury, obstruction, false statements. And he denied them, the president denied them that opportunity by wisely following the counsel of all his lawyers, both paid and unpaid, that he never get anywhere near Andrew Weissman and the incompetent Bob Mueller.
So when do we get these IG reports? When are we going to see the fruits of some of these other investigations that are supposed to be investigating the origins of this report and get some of those answers?
Well, I think things are heating up. I think probably within the next few weeks, I would expect some very serious developments in Durham's. You know, when you've been in this business as long as Victoria and I have been in this business since the 1970s, we're talking 40 years of federal prosecution, you know when the ground is starting to shift. You know when people are hiring high-powered criminal defense lawyers for their first grand jury appearance. And I would suspect that at this point, Horowitz is being asked not to report anything until after Labor Day so that the grand jury can do its work during August. And I would think that John Durham is very busy and that a number of people who were present at the creation of this monstrous brazen plot, which we have called since the very beginning, are getting lawyers right now. There's every indication that that's the case, but, you know, I'm sure we'll see some reporting on that shortly.
Do you place any, real quick, there's a lot of people sharing this week a Real Clear Politics investigation written by Paul Sperry,
Yes.
Alleging that James Comey had a spy inside the White House. Do you place any stock in that reporting?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
In fact, we now know without a doubt that they tried to get the vice president's office to cooperate. The vice president has confirmed that and has condemned it. If you're willing to go to the vice president's office, by the way, his former chief of staff, the vice president, has confirmed that he was approached by the FBI and people. So this is going to get very ugly. I just ask for people to have some patience. The good guys are going to win, believe it or not.
Well, I hope so. It's one of the reasons I get up in the morning is I'm a big fan of karma, and I get up in the morning hoping that today's the day.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, Mueller's testimony yesterday confirmed a lot of what Joe diGenova has been telling us for a long time. So
By the way,
thank you.
just remember, John Brennan was the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
This is his conspiracy from day one. John Brennan. Don't forget that name. He's at the end of this entire. He's at the beginning of this entire conspiracy.
All right, we'll keep his name and your words in mind. Thank you, Joe.
Thank
as
you,
always.
Joe.
Bye.